And he gives us, say, wow, this seems really complicated. It really isn't. He gives us a couple of ways here to figure out exactly what's going on. First, he tells us to pay attention to the basic idea, the premise, the conviction, or the claim. Right? So what's going on here? Let's pay attention to what they're saying here. He says, try to identify exactly what they're saying. Right? Next, he says, ask if the claim applies to itself. Does it apply to itself? If so, then there's a contradiction. Right? That's the basic idea. Does the statement fail to live up to its own standards? Can it be stated in the form A is the case and A is not the case? Right. If so, again, it is self-destructive.
Right. There is no objective truth.
Yeah.
Well, then say, okay, there is no objective truth. Is that an objective truth? Oh, okay. Truth can only be found through science.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that truth? Is that statement that's true? Can that be found by science? No.
Right.
Okay. So there are
it's
other ways.
It's a statement about science. It's not a scientific experiment that we perform
right.
to determine.
We didn't titrate it. We didn't do a scratch test on it.
Yeah.
We're the claim of claims are not evidence. Okay, is that evidence?
Yeah.
Or can I physically hold that? Can I run it around the table? Can I do something with that? No, that's a claim. So that's not evidence. That evidence is a claim. So again, these things you're just pausing to then apply itself to itself.
Yeah.
And if it fails itself, it's self-destructive.
All right, exactly. Here's another example he gives us. To err is human. Well, we've all heard that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like straightforward, right? That's the basic problem here with this particular illustration. So here's the illustration. He says, men wrote the Bible and people are imperfect, therefore the Bible is flawed and not inspired by God. There's their argument, right?
Yep.
Men wrote the Bible, people are imperfect, therefore the Bible is flawed and as such it's not inspired by God. Now, he tells us here the presumption that if a man is capable of error, then he will err also applies to this very argument against inspiration.
Right.
Right?
And again, it's not just the length of the Bible versus the sentence. The assumption is if man writes it down or does something with it, they err. That's the claim. There's no clarification. Are you saying that they err all the time, or is it just on books over 4 pages long?
No, 2 pages.
Okay. Well, that's good. So what we're doing is we're presenting that claim of if men write it, then it's an error. Does that apply to itself?
Right.
That same question.
Right, exactly. And so, so you think the Bible must be flawed because people make mistakes. That's what they think they're saying, right? The problem is you'd say, well, wait a minute, I'm curious. Why do you think you are an exception to that rule and haven't made a mistake about the Bible? Right? So if what people write down or what people say, if we err, then how do you know you're not error?
Right.
Right.
Just in everything, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever been wrong about something?
Yeah.
So could you be wrong about this? Yeah. I mean, you're utilizing again the Columbo tactics, the questions to ask these leading questions, and so you could get to a point where you say something like, "Can you explain to me why God isn't able to preserve His Word?" That's farther down, and so we're concentrating just on an internal critique here. But if you're wanting to kind of spin the question into something else, then you're putting the burden of proof back on them. Well, you're saying that God is unable to preserve His Word, or God is unable to communicate with us. Why is that the case? And so, well, I don't even believe in God. Oh, well, there's the point. You're not arguing fairly.
Right.
You're making a claim.
Well, or at least that's your real point, right? So let's talk about that instead of this error in the Bible and
Right.
that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Let's talk about that particular issue.